creative is the new targeting. That's kind of that saying that a lot of people understand and have heard, but don't really know how to activate properly, and is so critical in today's landscape that is being driven predominantly through AI algorithms. So,
welcome to Markigy. Grab some coffee and let's talk about what's working in marketing, who these strategies are designed for, and how to be customer-centric while we do it.
Hi, this is Leanne with Markigy. Today, I'm joined by Allyson Cochran, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Allyson, go ahead and give us a little bit of your background.
Awesome. Yeah, Leanne, thank you for having me today. My name is Allyson Cochran. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Silverback Strategies. So we are a performance marketing agency that is built around driving profitable growth for mid-market brands in the lead gen B2C space. So really built our agency around what marketers need out of an agency, not just providing those services. So thinking of their core jobs to be done and things they're challenged with, of course, hitting marketing goals, navigating the rapid change, some of which we're going to talk and unpack today, of today's digital landscape, and connecting marketing to business outcomes and really communicating in the same language as their boards. So we're a small shop headquartered in the DC area, and I'm lucky enough to have been there for going on 13 years.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to kind of dig into this. What is the thing that we really need to know? Like, if we are just not doing this, we're missing the boat.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the same one we zeroed in on in our last chat, but the concept of creative is the new targeting. That's kind of that saying that a lot of people understand and have heard, but don't really know how to activate properly, and is so critical in today's landscape that is being driven predominantly through AI algorithms. So would love to focus there.
Awesome. I love it. So when we think about like creative and we think about how it impacts the attention that we get and the eyeballs and the things like that, how do you see this? Like what do we need to kind of think about when we're looking at these strategies?
Yeah. So Silverback, we're a performance marketing agency, core services, paid media, performance media, paid search, paid social, and SEO. So from my lens with creative, I'm really thinking about the role creative plays now in fueling paid media, digital advertising performance, versus how different it is from the role it played just a few years ago. So not to go on kind of a TED Talk answer for you, Leanne, but the creative is the new targeting. The phrase was really born out of that massive shift in how paid social ads have worked. So data privacy legislation, GDPR, all the fun acronyms there, that totally severed the flow of browsing and app data into platforms like Meta. Completely obliterated the ability to target your ads, where marketers were able to really highly segment their Meta accounts in that example based on who sees which ad when and what audiences they wanted to show which creative to. That strategy doesn't work anymore because a lot of the data privacy legislation and the repercussions from it eliminated the targeting, the efficacy of the targeting that was available in platforms. So most of all the targeting levers are entirely gone at this point from a lot of these paid social platforms. And if you don't have the right creative strategy to activate the ad algorithms within channels, so Meta's is called Andromeda, you're basically going to be, AI is not going to know who to serve your ad to. So you're wasting dollars. You're likely not able to scale delivery and scale performance from these channels without a real understanding of what the creative strategy is.
Yeah. And I think that like when I hear that, I think about our need to see ourselves in things and like how that resonates. So I was a part of a strategy committee that really looked at the creative and what we could say without saying it.
Interesting. Tell me more.
So virtue signaling is a known phrase, right? Like, how can you signal that you believe these things, or like, how does that reflect back to you? And how does that seem when people share things on the internet, right? Because that's what people want to be, like you said, like entertained. They want to be, they want to build that like identity of how they see themselves. So in our marketing, when we look at the creative and we reflect back to them the values, maybe it's family values, maybe it's inclusivity. I think that there's room for having creative really embody the virtues of the organization that reflect back to its ideal customer. Like almost, I'm trying to say this, but I'm not really saying it. I want to hear your thoughts.
It's an interesting approach. I think a lot of companies that are approaching creative from the company first perspective without the perspective of the customer are totally missing the point. And AI broadly, we can get into this deeper later, but AI broadly is driving a force back to customer first marketing. But as we think about creative here at Silverback and what works best for activating these modern ad algorithms is understanding the deep nuance as to why customers are put on a buying journey. What are those psychological triggers that they are experiencing? How are they verbalizing it? What are the catalysts, the barriers to purchase? Are you familiar, Leanne, with jobs to be done theory?
Yes. Yeah. Love jobs to be done theory.
Yeah. Clayton Christensen, the fascinating McDonald's milkshake study. But, the TLDR for those that aren't familiar is people don't buy products or services to buy products or services. They buy them to get a job done. And there can be a lot of different alternatives to of different products or services they might purchase to solve a particular job that aren't necessarily directly related. So here at our team, we really we're getting back to the Mad Men era with audience research and customer research and understanding those intrinsic motivations. So we can incorporate that into our ad creative, into the messaging, into the visual executions, right? What's going to resonate for you from a creative standpoint, both messaging, visual, ad placement, is going to be very different probably than for me. So we need to understand these micro personas or archetypes of a customer. Who are the 3, 5, 10 different types of people that would buy the exact same product or service from a company? And let's build creative that in a diverse way for those different audiences and activate the ad algorithm that way.
I love archetypes. I think that is where persona building kind of stops short, is they don't go to like the whole, like, who is this identity? Who is this, like, how do they operate kind of thing? And they make it very flat. And to your point about like demographics are kind of like stunted.
Yeah. To stop at demographics or even like scraping the top level of like psychographics just doesn't do enough these days. I'm trying to think of a good client example, but we work with a retail experience provider, and they have a paint and sip type experience that would apply and be of interest to a broad swath of people. We've done a little bit of research and understood, one example of a micro persona is not just, hey, we want to target women who are interested in art, but why are they there? Well, women who are interested in art, who are kind of over the bar scene, are trying to, subscribe to this no alcohol lifestyle, and they still want to be able to hang out with friends and not have to feel like they have to go to a bar to do that. That's a totally different message than, hey, paint a fun picture with your friend this weekend. So you can see how the messaging you would activate would be very different. They would engage that kind of sober, curious, bar alternative audience to art fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, living in different larger metros, we really get to see like that variety. But I think that is also a trend that is increasing like throughout globally, but throughout the Americas. is just this like wider, call to the psychological need of the activity that we're trying to encourage people to convert into doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a misnomer in terms of digital marketing. I don't do a lot of social media outside of LinkedIn, but the vast majority of people do. And our attention spans are, I don't even know what the latest data is, but it's probably 0.6 seconds at this point. The hooks, the messaging that's going to get people to stop a scroll and engage with your ad in a meaningful way is not going to be some polished offer, polished brand, slogan that you've fine-tuned in the back room with your marketing team for 6 months. It's going to be a message that hits home internally as to what's motivating them. So rapid testing across a breadth of messaging and a breadth of those micro personas is what wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Well, you've already given me a couple examples, and normally that's my next follow-up question is like, when is there a story about how this works? But we know that, there's a couple very concrete ways where this abstract idea can be put into place. Is there any ones that I'm missing or that you want to kind of call out?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway, I think that people don't understand necessarily fully or appreciate fully in terms of activating creative right now, going back to kind of the notion of creative as the new targeting, how do I take that and act on it in my business, is the concept of a creative system. So, going down memory lane a little bit here, as Meta started to remove targeting levers and creative became a more important proxy for performance, and then they've totally rebuilt just in late 2024 their ad delivery system, thanks to data privacy, Andromeda, which is totally built on understanding. It's a predictive model that matches ads based on a predictive understanding of what ads might resonate most with users. It needs to consume a lot of creative. So most marketers' reaction was, let's chuck volume up there. And yes, you need volume, but volume for volume's sake is not a form of testing, right? We want to have a hypothesis and understand what we're actually getting to. So at Silverback, we really are pushing the concept of a creative system where you're using that audience research to really define those micro personas. You're mapping it into different creative concepts for each micro persona: problem-oriented, solution-oriented, curiosity-driven, desire-driven concepts. The formats will all be different: image, video, carousel. The messaging, you can see how this is kind of turning into a segmented web of a lot of volume, but messaging, features and benefits, social proof or UGC testimonial style ads, educational ads, explainer type videos. Then you map that to different personas, and of course, funnel stage. So there's a thoughtful process for how you develop volume to be able to feed these modern ad algorithms effectively. And you need to be able to measure those different components of an ad to ultimately be able to come away, Leanne, with something like solution-oriented hooks in a UGC format featuring a stressed out mom convert at 6x the rate of a glossy brand creative for this particular persona. So that's the type of tracking infrastructure on the back end and understanding of the different components of your creatives, not just volume, are going to drive learnings and allow you to really scale what works quickly and have more sound hypotheses as you get deeper into your creative testing as to what might work from the jump as you're expanding into new audiences.
All of that. If you didn't hear her say that, press pause, rewind, and go back and listen to that again. Because that is absolutely the right way to do it. There is a wrong way. The wrong way is to just pump out a bunch of crap and be like, well, this one has a pink background and this one has a green background. Look, if pink versus green is the amount of thing that you're testing, like, okay, sure, you can do that. But are you missing the bigger picture and you're testing green versus pink on a glossy, overproduced thing versus, the larger answering of real hypotheses?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we've gone through kind of this evolution of, A versus B sucked, chuck B out, get C in there, and it might be the pink versus green to use your example, but there's different components of an ad that are driving engagement in a meaningful way, and we need to have a taxonomy, if you will, to understand which ones are driving engagement, what combinations are driving engagement, and then apply those learnings going forward.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the infrastructure on the background and the tracking through the funnel that I think is the differentiator between wild guesses and throwing things at a dartboard versus actual scientific method planning and thought process. And to your point, I also because this has been a pain point that I've experienced, is that when you're testing, you have to give a budget to testing. It is not a test if you do not pay for a statistically significant amount or if the audience is too small. It is anecdotal. It is not useless, but just call it what it is.
Sure. Yeah. That I know one of your topics is usually a disclaimer, and that was going to be one of my disclaimers, actually, Leanne. No, that's great, because a lot of people, if you're spending $5,000 a month on Meta, it doesn't mean you can't be successful. A lot of people say, oh, if I don't have, 20, 50, 100K a month, I shouldn't even do Meta. And yes, there is a minimum threshold that would be ideal there. You need to drive, Meta's algorithm requires 50 conversion actions a week, whatever your priority conversion action is, a week to get out of their learning mode. If you don't have enough budget to get there, it's not going to be a great channel for you. But if you have enough budget to get there, then the right creative strategy founded in all the things we just talked about makes sense. But you're not probably running 40 different variations of an ad if you're spending $20,000 a month on Meta. You're probably running 3 to maybe 6 or 8 max. And then it's about the refresh rate, because as I mentioned earlier, these ad algorithms, without the inputs of targeting, they have to consume a lot of behavioral data in terms of how the creatives are engaging with their audience. So ads are going to fatigue more quickly. You're going to start to see reach slow down, frequency go way up. Once they've started to exhaust the ad, you need to maintain ad delivery with refresh. So you don't need necessarily a 40, 50 ads if you're a small spender, but you do need to have the right motion in place to be able to maintain ad refresh.
Yeah. And I think that that's something, I don't want to steal more of your disclaimers.
No, that's great.
I think that that's definitely something where I've seen many companies want to just have one ad that they put up a year ago and expect it to continuously perform and be like, this is our thing. And it's like,
that it's a classic situation. The hero ad, the CEO that says, this is it. I know best, and this is absolutely the ad that's going to win. And it took a huge amount of time to produce and get finalized and approved. It launches in the engine and it flops. So, gut doesn't really perform as well as testing, strong hypothesis-driven testing that's grounded in research. We have a lot of clients that will have personalities internally that are like, I really want to test this. And that can be one of the variations, but make sure that you're balancing, if that is your scenario, you're balancing it with really thoughtful research-driven tests as well.
Yeah. And to your point about the refresh is that maybe somebody saw the hero ad and it performed well, but after a year, come out with a new hero ad.
Yeah. And I think related to that, there's some industries that are notorious for this, but having kind of an ad template, a brand template, everything has to stick to, right? You have to use this type of ad structure, this text, everything has to look the same. You squint your eyes at all the ads, they all look exactly the same. The messaging is all swapped out, but the format, the visuals are exactly the same. That's the same exact ad in Meta's eyes, as an example, and really TikTok, any of these paid social platforms. If they can't discern the difference, they're not going to be able to know how to serve it differently to unique audiences. So, yes, refresh a hero ad if you want, but the key is going to be creative diversity from a visual execution standpoint as well. we've all seen ugly ads, screenshots of Apple iPhone Notes apps, UGC videos, POV type content, explainer videos. All of those look dramatically different, and they could be a similar message targeting those micro personas we were talking about earlier in a format that they're more likely to engage with.
This sounds like so much fun. I'm so much
It really is.
like let's get our dirty little hands on this, but we need to. And I think that part of the reason why it's intellectually stimulating is because it has to be intellectually stimulating to get to your audience these days.
100%. That goes back to the attention span issue that we were talking about. But yes, 100%.
So diversity, where do people so if the brand is overly templated, how can they have the diversity and stick to the brand consistency? Is that something that you see people struggle with, or what comes to mind?
We do, certainly in more compliance oriented industries, or thinking healthcare, finance, higher education, these established industries that have a look and a feel and expectations and compliance and approval workflows. That can be very challenging. The bigger challenge to creative diversity is actually meeting the refresh rate that we were talking about with the addressing ad fatigue. Heavy compliance workflows are the antithesis of how quickly you need to get ads in an engine for Meta to keep ad delivery going. So, we're adding 5-10 ads a week, sometimes more, depending on spend, into Meta. And these are new variations, could be net new concepts, new cuts of existing footage. But if your compliance workflows prevent you from meeting that pace, you need to really think about overcoming it with internal workflows that allow you to batch more creative. And while you're batching, thinking about it's an internal conversation you have to have, but thinking about where can we give, what are those non-negotiables with the brand? Brand colors, for example, we're never going to stray from those. But how can we employ or apply those non-negotiables to a slightly different format, and then getting alignment ahead of time, so then we can execute on ad creative at the pace that needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the pace that it needs to be on can be kind of shocking for compliant industries, where things move very slow internally, or interest rates, or things like that. They do need to have compliance, and they should have compliance, but you have to play the game.
Yes, and interest rates, HIPAA considerations with healthcare. It's a question of what you're promoting in the ad, and it kind of going back to the research phase. So we work with a bariatric surgery center, and there's a moment in their process, Leanne, where a lead intake process, where they're bound by HIPAA, and there's certain things that we can't feed back into the ad platform or highlight. But before that moment, there's a lot of opportunity for us to talk about the benefits or the intrinsic drivers for why somebody might approach weight loss, like those types of things. So thinking about what's the messaging at the right phase that's not going to flag compliance, but it's close enough to marketing performance directionally to be able to win and meet the needs of the platform. That's always part of our conversation.
Yeah. And I think that there's ways to do compliant marketing. I know that there's ways to do compliant marketing that are not reliant on one-to-one matches in what converts. And it takes a customer expertise, to your point about research and understanding their motivators and looking at, what the archetypes are, what the customers are that did convert, and then mirroring that on the front end without it being like, oh, well, Jane that saw this ad was one of our purchasing people. You don't have to know it was Jane. You just have to know the population of people that did convert.
You need to draw the similarities between your best customers and then map that to how you're targeting and incorporating it into creative strategy. 100%. You nailed that. There are compliant ways that you can strip PII from data, and it's important to feed as much quality data back into ad platforms to be able to give them feedback in terms of find more of this, less of this, because these people that you drove turned into really high qualified leads, opportunities, customers, and these didn't. Part of the issue with AI right now is that they are optimizing towards the easiest, cheapest conversions. And oftentimes that's going to be bots in a lot of cases, unfortunately. And, channels like Meta, they want to make more money. So they're going to optimize towards that. If you don't have guardrails that are understanding what the quality of the lead are and then feeding that back in a feedback loop back into the ad platforms, you're going to be wasting likely a lot of budget. That's probably a whole different conversation from creative, though.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a different conversation, but it also isn't. I think that people listening will understand that. You do need to have as much accurate data and feedback loops as you can possibly have. And bots are a real budget waster. And, there's just gives and takes, right? If you can't have great feedback loops, then you're going to pay the price with lots of bots. And that's just a business choice. But creative is a better choice that you can take more ownership over. That's the controllables that I think that organizations can always have ownership over their involvement in.
I would agree. And not to go too deep into the data wormhole, but if you can't connect your data back to ad platforms, there are some solutions that allow you in a platform that allow you to really manually indicate, hey, we care more about this than that type thing. But you're right, creative is going to be your biggest lever for ensuring that we are engaging the right people and not just any old person with your product or service.
Yeah. So we talked through disclaimers a bit. And I'm racking my brain. I mean, there's so much depth to this creative strategy. Any call outs you want to make?
For more disclaimers?
Any of it.
I would say, this is more broadly with like a trend with AI, Leanne, but going back to our conversation around throwing spaghetti at a wall. When I say volume and breadth wins, I don't mean dump 50 random AI generated ads into the ad platform. That's not the volume that they're looking for. That's going to end up being noise. So volume without a real strategy and understanding of your customer, why they buy, what puts them or prevents them from buying, puts them on a journey or prevents them from buying. And poorly executed ads, AI generated ads are coming a long way, but there's still a lot of issues, a lot of industries, going back to compliance, like legal, that you can't actually use it in. So, thinking about the right approach to, I can't overstate the need to focus on strategy to fuel volume, not just volume.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious if, kind of doubling down on the AI question is do you see the platforms reacting negatively to AI? I know that for SEO that there is a lot more of like the I don't want to call it like shadow banning, but like, it's just not as performing as well when it's completely AI generated.
So like I know. Yeah, it's such an interesting topic. So with AI, talking about SEO, AI generated content, I think Google announced it's probably going on a couple of years ago at this point, but they don't care if it's made by AI as long as it's quality and meets their, EEAT standards, things like that. So AI is only as good as the inputs you give it. And that's true of ad algorithms. That's true of LLMs when you're producing content or anything you're doing in there. Crap in, crap out. So it goes back to that research and strategy piece. If you give the right fuel, And I believe AI is best used as from a content perspective as an editor or to make it better. As these models progress, I find them getting worse and worse at their output quality, just from 0 to 1. But they can go from 1 or 2 to 3 really, really well with the right direction. So it's all about the right inputs to get the best output.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back to that probability format, right? Because they're just probability machines.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what they are.
They're
And
recommendation engines, right? I mean,
yeah.
LLMs are recommendation engines. Ad algorithms are recommendation engines. Everything's getting more personalized. So, gone are the time where you could just say, I want to optimize for this particular keyword and you would get everybody. Or I want to target this particular audience on a paid social and you would get everybody. These AI algorithms are personalized. They have a lot of input into what we've, using ChatGPT as an example. What are your other chats? How they're grabbing context on that, on you as a person. So results are going to be personalized. And if you don't understand the core audience you serve and why they pick you, why you're the best option for them, AI is not going to know that either. So you're very likely going to be invisible in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're asking AI why you matter, then you maybe should just talk to
Maybe
some
you
people.
skipped a couple steps. Yeah, that's a different conversation.
Pick up the phone. But okay. I mean, and I think this kind of helps us segue into the next question is where do you think the future of marketing is going versus where you think it should go? Are they the same?
So where's it going? Where should go? And are they the same? Where I think it's going, and we've been going here a long time, but I think we're finally there, is the era of the technical marketer is coming to an end. So there have been, coming from a digital marketing background here at Silverback, just 5 years ago, still there was a deep value in having somebody who has deep channel expertise, understood how to pull those levers and drive performance. And while that's not fully gone yet, so many of those levers are going away that I think we're going towards, and we're rapidly approaching the endpoint with marketing needs to be a combination of somebody who can understand data and evaluate, what's going on from a performance standpoint, understand customers, and know how to put which inputs to put into the machine. Less so these lever pullers, if you will, or the technical marketers. So we're shifting towards strategy again. And if you've let those muscles atrophy, now's the time, because AI is starting to take away the value of that lever pulling that a lot of brands have paid for agencies in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like helps someone like me who knows enough to be dangerous but isn't the button pusher.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, more so than ever, the junior marketers need to really understand, and I think I said this on maybe the previous episode, but they need to understand the macro level strategy with the micro level execution. And I think that the bar of what all marketers need to know is being raised, to your point of like the technical marketer is important. It's very important, but those answers are more readily available, and the solutions to bypass the deep knowledge of put a colon here, put a colon there, like put a comma there, like that stuff matters, but it's much more easily accessible on a wider amount of landscape, so that somebody who has the strong 10,000 foot vision can become the executioner much faster than someone who is an executioner but never looks from the top down.
Yeah, AI is going to take away or more easily be able to replace individuals and their ability to pull levers, right? They're going to do that better than humans. If they're not already doing it in certain capacities, it's very soon. But these LLMs, these AI ad algorithms, they're only as smart as the information they're given, right? They're relatively dumb until you train them. And then they're very powerful with the right information. So that's where, marketers that are looking to get into the fields need to focus on understanding how do I fuel the machine most effectively? And then whatever your industry, really understand your customers, because you have those two skill sets, creative intuition, analytical rigor, and understanding of how to fuel the machines, you're going to be set up to win in this era.
Yeah. And if you're leading a team and you're looking at hiring, that's who you need to hire.
100%.
Or be prepared to mentor them into it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where, I've seen leaders stay up on AI, and I've seen leaders who are just like, what's a PDF? How do I print it? And, of the two, I think that it's very clear who is going to come out on top, as the next generation, the current, who's just going to stick around.
There are very few marketing leaders, senior marketing leaders I've talked to, senior executives, that feel like they have nailed it and understand fully the application of AI, how they're using it. A lot of people aren't realizing the benefits fully yet, in any number of capacities within their organization. So it's easy. I think we live in this marketing world where you log into LinkedIn and it's all you see. People have written, comment, AI playbook here, and I'll give you everything I built from my Claude skill set or whatever. That we're in, you think of the adoption curve, early adopters. Marketers are early adopters. There's so much more to be done there. And the leaders of these organizations that we're working with really need agencies to guide them through that, understanding how to activate AI, how are things changing, how should they evaluate partners differently in this landscape versus what was valuable just 3, 5, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. God, 10 years ago, it's just not even apples to apples.
No, that's a different lifetime. I mean, who were we 10 years ago?
Completely different. That's for sure. Oh man, the nostalgia. So I think my last question is, what is a question someone should ask you, but they don't?
Yeah, I knew this was coming and I loved it. I'll keep it professional because there's a bunch of questions on the personal side that I would love to get asked as a resident kind of deflector. I love to drive conversations and not overshare. But in terms of a professional question, so many organizations come to Silverback or anywhere and are asking for a specific service. I'm looking for media. I'm looking for SEO. I need a meta audit, whatever it might be. Versus, I wish they would ask, what do I need to drive this growth outcome? And not come in with some preconceived notion of it's this particular channel or investment type or strategy. Because the best conversations I have with prospects and clients are when we start with a goal in mind and they come in maybe with a thought of like, I think it's probably SEO, but their growth target is really accelerated and they have a meaningful budget and there's some opportunities to fine tune some things. It's actually a media opportunity that would be more effective for them. That I really wish more marketers, more business leaders would come with the growth target in mind and an open mind as to how to get there versus I want to evaluate these agencies, which oftentimes are apples to oranges, even though they look apples to apples on the surface for this one particular service.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really insightful is that too many times and I think I use this in the, when I explain the question is that everyone asks about Pinterest and they really be asking about their content strategy. Because if you have no content strategy, then why are you trying to distribute it on Pinterest? Like, where's it going to go? But I think that, one of the things that as leaders, when we're looking at our vendors that we don't sit back and think about is how much the vendors are seeing what is happening in real time and what kind of results in real time those platforms are delivering and their ability to reflect back on, yeah, you do have that growth target, but I can tell you that right now, if you need that in the next 60 days and you're this type of business, that is not your most effective way to do it.
Yeah. And on top of that, measurement, another conversation worth having with someone, Leanne, but measurement is the biggest lever for performance that is going unused right now by a lot of organizations. we're in this era of click-based attribution is really starting to falter thanks to data privacy. And there's a question of like, was it ever really accurate anyway to begin with? And the answer is probably no. But they come to us wanting a particular channel or service, and in reality, maybe they're measuring things completely wrong, and they're not seeing actually, wow, your biggest opportunity is over here because there's a lot of waste going on. You're measuring it based on a click-based approach. It's actually not generating revenue for you. There's a lot of waste. You should start there, because if you get that right, it opens up a lot of capacity, a lot of budget potentially that you could apply elsewhere and scale the growth more quickly.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of mic drop moments. Like, I think people need to kind of listen to this episode a couple times and just let it sink in, because you need to hear that. If someone wants to continue the conversation and they want to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to do that?
As I mentioned at the top, I'm not a big social media gal except for LinkedIn. So definitely send me a connection. Add a note. I don't know where this trend came from, just sending invites with no note. I love a good note to understand where we might have connected and why you're driving or sending the request. But check me out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah. Please send a note saying that you heard it from my podcast. I would like that.
Very cool.
But if you're trying to get a hold of me, it's info@Markigy, MARKIGY.com. And just if you're only listening, like maybe you're in the car or something, Allyson is spelled ALLYSON. And her last name is COCHRAN, just so you find the right one.
I appreciate that. I can thank my dad for that wonky spelling.
It sets you apart. It is how they know it's the right Allyson.
There you go.
And so thank you again for joining me. As always, listeners, please like, review, subscribe, say all the nice things. It's helped get this to your ears. All right. Thank you again, Allyson. Have a good day.
Thanks for having me. Take care.